Hey, welcome back to another episode. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, then you know I am joined once again by my lovely and talented partner in crime, Mr. Jaime Lokier. How you doing? Fine, sir.
I'm very good. Very happy to be here again with you.
Yeah, and we're getting together we're doing two incredible events. One incredible event. We're going to do one in English and we're going to do it in Spanish later in the year. um, called Alchemy. And we want to talk about alchemy today, or the process, and how important it is to being a leader, to being a successful distributor in leverage sales, to create true momentum. The alchemy, of course, is the ancient belief that you could, of transmutation, right? Scientists were trying to transmute base materials like lead into gold. And there's a lot of parallels with that in leverage sales. Transmutation, transformation. I think back to who I was when I joined as a 20-year-old. I was the last prospect you would ever want to enroll. And then think about who I am now as a leader of a team of incredible people around the world. And it was transformation, transmutation that got me there. I think, Jaime, that's just the magic of our business.
I'm sure of it. And actually, most people, I think, don't understand this. Because there are many ways to be an entrepreneur, and there are many gig businesses you could develop, but there's no single one model or business or profession where personal development is embedded on what we're doing. And actually, I've talked to many very famous people on leadership or on personal development outside of network marketing that they don't admit it publicly, but behind closed doors, they tell you 50% or 40% of every student I have come from network marketing. And we are 1% of the population. So being 40 or 50% of the audience of every big coach, every big trainer outside, that means something.
It really does mean something. There's just the delta or the gulf between those two numbers that you're talking about. And I see the same thing talking to people in the space, leadership people. You know, I'm been in the National Speakers Association since 1991, I think I joined. So I'm there with every leadership guru in the world, and we're at conventions and just having lunch, dinner, talking in the hallway, or they endorse my books, I endorse their books. We're connected. Some of them actually have great friendships, and I hear the same dynamic from them. They're like, what is with the people in your space? Why the if you if you're a consultant to retail stores, you don't see that. If you speak in the franchise industry, you don't see that. If you're in the government sector of leadership, diplomacy, any of those fields, the nonprofit stuff, I mean, they work on developing their career. They they understand why they should develop skills. They're thinking like, okay, if I, but it's such a different mindset in the employee space. They're like, okay, so if I take this course, can I get my company to pay for it? will my boss pay for this? And then I could go to New Orleans for that 5-day convention and go to that training with the expert in A, B, and C. And then when I add that to my LinkedIn profile and I'm making my resume and I want to get a raise, is my boss going to pay me more money, or am I going to be able to use that training to get a better job at a higher pay? It just kind of doesn't occur to them, the self-development part of that equation, the personal growth. It's just about the certifications, like, and yeah, I received this certification from the association of XYZ, and now I can put that on my resume. Where the people in our business, they just are so locked in, so dialed into, how do I grow myself? Because if I grow myself, the business growth is just going to follow.
Yeah, let me tell you one quick story as an example of what this transformation can do in the lives of the audience, of people watching. Before network marketing, I was someone with a lot of study in me. I mean, I had my career. I have marketing master's degree in marketing. I did every training you can imagine. I had diplomas on sales, on marketing, on many stuff. And I tried to be an entrepreneur 13 times, and I lost them all. I mean,
Wow.
I was so broke. I don't know anyone who tried to be an entrepreneur and failed 13 times before the age of 27. So when I joined network marketing, I was the kind of person that used to bully the people reading personal development. I was the one telling them, you are not developed enough, that's why you need these books. And someone in the first company, a mutual friend, told me, but okay, let's say that you will be a loser reading those books. Do you prefer being a loser with money or a cool guy broke? And I said, okay, you're right. I want to be the loser with money. So I went to my first personal development event, and you were part of the people doing that training, and you gave a training about the 13 mistakes on prosperity or something like that. So usually when you are in a training named X amount of mistakes, you say this one I'm doing that, this one not, this one yes, this one not. But I was over the 13, and all of them. I mean, you shouldn't select your meals based on the right side of the menu. Checked, I do that. And you shouldn't think like this. Check. And you shouldn't do this. Check. You shouldn't lawn your own garden, your own mall. Check. So I had all of them wrong. All of them. And that was the first time I realized there was something I should work that I never worked before, even though I had so many diplomas and so many study on my back. And it really made a difference. That was the turning point in my career. The moment I realized I had to work on my mindset, that's the moment that everything started to change. And I feel that that's what all of us as leaders should encourage out of our people, because I feel that right now we have many leaders that forgot this basic principle, especially in new companies. Many leaders are so focused on the tactics because of social media. So they are only working on what's the new tactic, what's the new blog post, what's the new kind of live streaming you should do to get more leads. But they forgot about how important it is to teach your people how to think about themselves, how to manage their emotions, how to get out of their comfort zone. So they have a huge sales force of people working for them when they tell them what to do, but they don't have entrepreneurs, they don't have leaders in their teams. And that's something we should all be working on.
One of the distinctions, I think reason why the self-development is baked into the cake, so to speak, in our business, is what we offer people is an opportunity for entrepreneurial people. That's a distinct difference than a business for entrepreneurs. And most people don't get the nuance. I would say there's three buckets. Bucket number one is the employee bucket. Bucket number two is the entrepreneurial bucket. And bucket number three is the entrepreneurs. So who are the entrepreneurs? Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Hewlett Packard, Walt Disney, Richard Branson, Mark Cuban, throw in where people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, billions of dollars even, right? And they're very unique subspecies of the gene pool. I've dabbled in that. You dabbled in that. I had failures in that originally. You had failures, 13 of them in that originally, right? Or 17, whatever you said. But then there's entrepreneurial. And entrepreneurial is, hey, this is for people who would like to have a side gig, who maybe don't want to mortgage their home and take $250,000 and open a dry cleaner, hoping that it works out. This is a business for people who maybe aren't ready to say, okay, I'm going to take a second mortgage on my house and I'm going to gamble the kids' college money or our family vacation fund, and we're going to try opening a restaurant and hope it works out. We've got this thing where we say, hey, keep your job, keep your business, whatever. Come in for $1,000 or less, $500 sometimes, $300 sometimes. Come in and here's this company. They register the products. They get licensed with the government. They handle the customer service. They handle the shipping. They handle the back office. They pay the taxes. They do the logistics. What are you going to do if you know how to use a smartphone, if you can put a post on Instagram, if you could recommend something to a friend with passion, if you could invite a few people over to your house, if you could get 6 people to look at a video, you could be an entrepreneur and you could create some ongoing income. And then you have the employee people, which is, my family, they're employee people. Some of you guys have heard the story, how many years and years I'd call my mother every week. And at some point at the end of the conversation, she would say, have you given any thought to getting a real job? I'd say, Mom, I'm very successful. I make a lot. Yes, but there's no security in that. If you got a paycheck every Friday, if you work for a company like General Motors, you'd have security. And because that's that generation, that's how they were raised. My generation, I'm a boomer generation. I'm an outlier in that generation because I was entrepreneurial. The default setting for most boomers is employee. The exciting thing about network marketing, leverage sales now is the huge growth is coming millennials, generation X, Y, and Z. And their default setting is entrepreneurial.
Right.
Like my VA, right? I have a virtual assistant, new one, just started with me. He flies for a major airline, got 3 days a week. So he's got that set up. Every week he does three. Has it set one haul down, he overnights, one haul back. He leaves in the middle of one day, comes back the middle of the third day. It's, 2 days in his week of 3 days worth of pay. He's got it set up every week. He drives for Lyft a couple of days a week. He's my virtual assistant, and he does some other stuff. And he's like the typical millennial and later generation. That is just the kind of the default thing is, oh yeah, and I have a YouTube channel, I monetize my videos, or I, have a Instagram account and I make swag and I have t-shirts and ball caps and things, and I'm building my brand. And because we have this unique bucket in the middle, they kind of discover, because of that infrastructure we have, I don't know, somehow we get the message out to them on, hey, the fastest way to grow your business is to grow yourself. And when you can learn, if you learn, like we have people can go learn inviting skills. That's an important skill set in our business, right? Just like the employees can go learn Excel spreadsheet skills. They can learn accounting skills. They can learn electrician skills or plumber skills. The difference with us is we are saying, yeah, but you're also going to want to learn people skills. You're going to want to learn conflict resolution skills. You're going to want to learn leadership skills. And when you learn those kind of skills, this is where exponential growth lives. This is where real breakthrough financial freedom comes from, because those skills, they take your regular other skills and they supercharge them. Because if you learn how to make good invitations, you learn the skill of meeting people, but you've also developed the people skills, you're indestructible.
And one more thing, that's what you take to everything else you do in your life. Because if you learn how to do calls, and then you want to be an astronaut or you want to be a dentist, you don't need that skill. You need to learn some other skills. But the people skills and how to manage your own emotions, all of that you need everywhere. Anything you do with your marriage, if you're married, or your family, if you have a family, everything will get better if you have those skills.
Yeah, and like for me, just a brutal lesson I learned. Like I get comp plans really well. I'm on the spectrum. I'm an analytical, rational, logical guy. So you show me a compensation plan and how the percentages work, I picked that up instantly. So I was in a company. I left it for various reasons. I joined this other company. Love it. I analyzed the comp plan. And oh my God, I realized, wow, this is so much better than that old company I used to work with. So I call a leader who used to be in my sponsorship line with the old company. His name was David. So I call up David and I say, hey, I need to explain to you why your comp plan is so lousy. Let me explain to you why this other comp plan is so much better. It's stupid for you to be in working this old comp plan. And let me show you the numbers. And he's like, politely listening to me. And I'm, giving him chapter and verse and showing him. And then he, when I finished, he kind of said, you kind of make me feel stupid with this call. Like, you think I'm not smart enough to analyze my comp plan, and you're so much more clever than me, and you figured out, and I just, but I just don't think this is a very good relationship. And I don't like to interact with people in such a way. And I prefer to work with people that I like, which was his way of saying, you're just an asshole. Why would I ever want to do business with you? So I had learned this skill of computational analysis, let's say, but I hadn't learned the people skill of how do you treat somebody with respect? How do you show empathy? How do you be a good person who actually cares about other people and just isn't seeing the dollar sign stuff?
Yeah. And it happened to all of us in some way or another, because nobody tells you this, nobody teaches you this. This is not something you have on schools. This is not something that your boss on your regular job will tell you. Usually nobody teaches you this, and that's why it's so important what we do. And that's why also we decided to do an event that it's different from everything that is out there, because right now the world is filled with events, with many people teaching you many stuff, and those are amazing. I've been doing those events and I love them, and I really enjoy them. But if we really want to take people to the next level, we need to have the time with them. We need to be able to go deep and work and let them work on them. Each of us, even us on stage, we need to be working on ourselves, on those, on that right environment. That's what the industry needs right now. I'm sure of it.
I'm so sure of it too. For people who have followed along, Jaime and I started duplicationnation.com with this in mind. Like this podcast, I do it in English every week. Jaime does a Spanish version every week. It's deep dives. It's big kid conversations. It's not 280 character, post on X. It's not an Instagram reel for 59 seconds. There's a place for that stuff. There's a place for those cavalcade of stars events. But I know the last one I went to, I was having dinner with some of the people there and afterward, and we were talking about some of the amazing sessions that they experienced and some of the cool things they learned. And then it kind of got around to the guy next to me was saying, and that session you did, that session Jaime did, that session Mary Lou did, but some of those other ones, I mean, we would have much rather had more time with you guys, with the bigger sessions, the important sessions. And I just think that's true. It's now people think it's a quantity game. So now when you get a promo for an event, they have 18 speakers or 24 speakers. And a lot of times there's 12 of them that probably shouldn't be on that big stage. But the promoters kind of got sucked down the black hole of, hey, we're just going to keep adding presenters and sessions, and more is better, but sometimes less is better. Like, so we do these long form podcasts. We have a long form email newsletter with like real articles, articles on leadership, articles on duplication, articles on personal development, skill sets and things. And these alchemy events, they're going to be the same kind of thing in an event. We have 3 presenters. In English, it's going to be Jaime, myself, and Dana Collins. It's taking place in July. In Spanish, it's going to be Jaime, myself, and Eric Gamio. Is that October, the Guadalajara one? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it's September, but I will.
September. Okay. Anyway, we'll put it in the show notes, but um, each of them, three presenters. Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, just three presenters, because we're doing deep dive, meaningful conversations. Because that's where the breakthroughs live. And there is a place for those other ones. I think, particularly for new people, I think they get really excited. And what you did for yours with Cumbre event, amazing. The mastermind event in English has been amazing. I do think that those are really exciting and helpful for new people. And there's a place for events like Alchemy, where it's for people with a little higher level of commitment, who are willing to do deeper work, willing to challenge themselves more. We're not even doing, like this July one, we're not even doing live streaming. We're like, hey, if you're not willing, get on a plane, fly to Orlando, be in the room with us, be in the events, networking with the other participants, you're just not going to get the same effect. So we're not going to do that for that one. So we're excited about what that can do for people. Um, I'm just kind of looking through the agenda. The Friday night is a welcome reception, and that's going to be just get to know who you're collaborating with for the weekend, right? We'll have some cheese and crackers and snacks or whatever, but bring your camera if you want to take selfies, bring your books if you want to get your book signed by Dana or Jaime or I or all three of us, and just meet the people. And then the first session on Saturday, we're calling spontaneous combustion. And I think that's just going to be the coolest kickoff to an event ever. Just Jaime, you, me, Dana, just riffing. And, the potential for that's going to be just incredible.
Yes. And I think we've never been the three of us together on a stage, which by itself is something that I'm very excited for. But people will understand differently what we mean by transformation and what is really what's the process that we've experienced on ourselves, but also helped so many other people achieve. Because I know that everyone that's listening to this have been on many events and many virtual events, but I'm not sure if they really experienced deep transformation, and they will see what's that. And then that will be followed by hot seats. So we will work with them. They will be the ones with all the lights on, and they will be able to be the ones presenting their challenges and working really on depth on what you need, what's happening in your life, what's happening in your business. It's not just theory about abstract concepts. It's let us know what's happening in your life and let us all work on how to solve it, which I think is the most value you could get from any kind of interaction with mentors.
Yeah, I've done a few long, deep events. I did a thing called Tribal event once a year, 5-day event. People fly in from all over the world. Did a authorship apprentice program, same thing, week long. And I did an MLM, called it Mega MLM, and again, just had million-dollar earners and company presidents and owners at that. And anytime I do those, I've done these kind of hot seats, and they're always the highest ranked session of the event. And that's just me. Now, being able to do it with you and Dana together, where people bring up their challenges. And it could be anything, really. It's just, what is I think for some people, it'll be imposter syndrome. They have imposter syndrome and they got to work through it. I think for other people, it's just worthiness issues. They're sabotaging their own success. Other people, it may be more pragmatic things. Why aren't they duplicating enough? Why does their duplication fritter away once it gets down 6 or 7 levels away from them? Maybe somebody want to do a hot seat on how to set up their candidate pathway, or look at some of the recruiting tools they use and are they effective? I think we could have some fun if anyone wanted to critique their standardized presentation of how they've structured it, what they're presenting. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff we could do there. So here's what I'll say. I will guarantee anyone watching or listening the entire price of the event, the plane ticket, the hotel, the meals, the registration, everything will pay for itself times 10 just from this segment on hot seats. I really believe that, because if you're the one getting the hot seat, it's the single most important thing in your career right now that you're working on. And for the people who aren't, they get even more out of it because they can be objective. Like when you're on that hot seat, it's pressure, right? And it's just kind of human nature. You make excuses, you defend, or you validate why you did it. Whereas if you're sitting in the audience watching the analysis with someone else, you don't have any of those defense mechanisms. You just you can, you can see oh, I could see I do that exact same thing, and you can use it and you can apply it to your business in a way. So I think that will be pay for itself a million times over. But then, of course, we're going to have these deep dives that you're going to do personally, I'm going to do personally, and Dana is going to do personally. So I want to talk and by the way, we're not going to go, this is not a big sales pitch. We're not going to go into all this stuff. We'll give you a link. You can read it. We'd rather share some lessons with you right now that we think are important. But let's talk for a sec about what they are, the individual ones. So let's go with the first solo session you're doing, the science of influence. What is that? Why is it important? What does that mean for people in our business why they got to know that stuff?
Well, first of all, because we already know how important leadership is in our profession. And that's why we use so much that word. But we don't use it right, because every time we say that we are bringing someone on stage, we say, and now you're going to listen from a great leader, and maybe no one follows that person, not even in their house. But we are telling that they are leaders, and leadership is influence. I mean, if you tell your team that you need to go to an event and no one shows up, you don't have any influence on them. You don't have any leadership. So if you want to lead, you need influence. That's it. And there's a lot of science behind that, just as the title says. I mean, this is something that we have on our DNA. I mix up the letters in Spanish. The DNA, we have that on our DNA. And that's something that we can see on every mammal on Earth. They have the instinct to follow the leaders of the tribe, or I don't know how you say, the pack, And as humans, we have that need because when we were born, we knew instinctively that we had to follow our parents. They were the ones telling us how to survive on this earth. And we felt so in peace following those big figures on our lives. And then we lost that. So we're looking for leaders all our life. We need that. As humans, we need to have people to follow. And that's something huge for you. If you know how to influence people, you can achieve anything you want in life because you need others to achieve anything that's worth achieving. So I'm gonna teach you the science behind this, how to be someone with influence, how to speak so people want to listen to you, and how to be the kind of person that people will want to follow because you can't force them. That was a different era. Our grandparents had the chance to force people and be coercive, but that's something that we can't do now. You need people to want to follow you, and I'm gonna teach you exactly how to do it, and we're gonna go on a deep dive with practical exercises so you go out of that session with tools, with practical tools to have more influence right away.
Yeah, and nobody does that better than you. That session is going to be electric. My first session I'm going to do alone is how to orchestrate a breakthrough. Because this is something I've probably spent the last 5 years really analyzing deeply. What's the process of breakthroughs in general? How does someone develop a vaccine for a cure? How does someone create a concept that turns into an IPO and becomes worth $40 billion? How does someone start as a distributor in our space and with no one who would follow them and no influence and without an education and without a lot of money? And how did they become this leader with 100,000 people on their team around the world that are hanging on to every word that they say? How do I take a beginning softball team and guide them and coach them and turn them into champions? There's a process. There's elements of a breakthrough that happen. So I'm going to do that Saturday night. And the reason I'm doing it at night is because we're going to do something increíble at the end of the night. We're going to go outside to a fire pit. We're going to do a burning bowl ceremony. And if you haven't ever done one, you can Google it on my Prosperity TV YouTube channel. I know we wrote about it, I think in MLM Confidential one month, but it's this idea where you physically and metaphysically and spiritually release something that no longer serves you. And you create a vacuum. And then you replace it with things that do serve you. So you might have fear of speaking on stage, and that doesn't serve you. So we're going to put it on a list. We're going to burn it up physically and, literally and spiritually, and then replace it with something that empowers you, which is, hey, I can develop a skill set to be compelling on stage rock star where people are going to hang on to my every word. Maybe I've been holding on to vengeance and something in my personal life, and I'm going to let that go and release it and replace it with something that's better, like love. But the law of the vacuum is if you're holding on to this thing tight right here, the universe can't put anything in your hand. Sometimes you have to create a vacuum and allow the universe to fill it with good. So it's kind of a metaphysical kind of thing, but I do it every year on New Year's Eve. Sometimes I do it once or twice more during the year, where I just feel like my prosperity is blocked. I just want to, find out the things that are holding me back, whether it's beliefs, behaviors, whatever the case might be, and then let them go. So we're going to do that. That'll be a really cool thing. Dana is going to do a session on how to harness your own personality, the characteristics you have, like, who are you? Who's the person behind your eyes? Who's the person who's driving the bus? What are they all about? And what are their strengths? What are the things that hold them back? What are their limiting beliefs? And how do you break through and use them? So she's going to do pretty cool thing with that. And then you got another deep dive session on, of course, the subject of your last book, Birthing a Leader, about, and really, well, even more the book before that, which is, leaders die, movements don't, because you're going to talk about the principles of building a movement. So if somebody's out there, they're in Monet or USANA or Herbalife or Fusion or LifeVantage or whatever, saying, create a movement. I'm just trying to build my network here. I want to qualify for the car bonus. I want to win that cruise to the Riviera. I want to get the trip to Dubai or to, Cancun. What do they need to know about building a movement?
I mean, if they are serious about their business, they need to know that there are only two ways to do that. If you want a big business, one way is doing it through your personal charisma. And we know many leaders who have done that, and they do very well until they can't do it anymore. Because if you build everything based on your charisma, the moment you want to retire or the moment you want to go on a long vacation, your team falls apart. I mean, they need you. They need your big image on stage, and they need you doing the trainings, because no one else knows what to do. And if they know what to do, people don't want to follow anyone else, because it's all based on your big image on stage.
Yeah,
And the other way to do it,
I'm gonna amend your word charisma, because I know that's not your native tongue. I'm gonna expand it and suggest cult of personality, because I think there's a lot of people in our space that's what they're, the grinders, the people who are working 18 hours a day, and they're just, at 2 a.m. in New York City, they're talking with their team in Honolulu because it's 6 hours earlier, or they're just grinding. And it's based on this cult of personality, totally about them.
exactly, it's everything about them. I don't mean that on the other way of doing this, you don't need charisma. You need charisma, but that's not the main thing. And on this call to personality, as you call it, that's the most important aspect. Everything revolves around you. The other way of building it is creating a movement, creating something that moves without you and that has embedded its own culture. And when you have this culture, the movement is the one that teaches the new generations what are the values that they need to care about, and what are the principles they need to have in mind, and what's the best way to do this, to do the business. The same movement is what keeps the message going and your team going on, and you can retire and your team will still be growing because the movement is growing. And it's not always going to be heading exactly where you wanted because you don't have so much control on it, but it will be way bigger and it will get to places you never even imagined, and you will be free. We always talk about this example of the first company where we met, how the company closed because some stuff happened there. You know how to explain it better than me. People bought the company and wanted to get rid of the MLM. So drama and trauma happened. But if that wasn't the case, it was a huge movement. And right now, there are so many top leaders in the industry teaching what we taught them there, because the message kept going even when we weren't there. And we weren't there because the company died and there was no way of doing that, but the message kept going. And if you can contain that on your genealogy, on your team, that's the key to freedom on the long term. So we will talk about this, how to build that movement, how to create the right culture, how to have independent leaders, and the more important thing, how to become the person able to do this, to enable this movement, because you need one person flipping the switch. You need one person doing the right stuff and becoming the right person for this to start. So we're going to talk about what you can do to be that person.
By the way, if you guys are listening, watching, the last segment that I'm going to do, we're going to kind of wrap up the whole event, is the 4 quadrants of thermonuclear prosperity. It's a training I've never done anywhere in the world before. It will be the worldwide debut. But I believe it's the culmination of 40 years worth of work, experience, research, and it's going to be very metaphysical. It's about true prosperity, because it's not just money and material things. And I say that because I don't want to demean money or material things. I don't want to minimize them. I do think they are a part of prosperity. But there's 4 quadrants that have to be just working in your life if you want to experience true prosperity. Because we all know rich people who are miserable, right? And we all know happy people who with good dispositions, but if their kid needs braces, they can't afford it. If the car breaks down, they're in serious trouble. No, we got to get all the areas going. So that's what that's going to be about. We're not going to do a big pitch on it. We'll put the links in the show. Go and read the page. Read the whole page, what it's about. And if you're the right person for this event, you'll know it. You'll know it right, You'll know it 2 minutes after you start reading. And like, okay, I have to be there in the room with Dana and Jaime and Randy. So watch the link for that. What advice do you give someone who's kind of starting out and they say, well, I'm busy. I don't have time for self-development. I wouldn't know what to do. Where would I begin? What would you tell that person?
That's not a fair question, because right now we have this event and I can't think of anything better than coming to an event like this. But for people who think they don't have the time or they don't have the money for personal development, you're right. And you won't have it ever. If you don't do something different, you won't have more money in your life and you won't have more time in your life. And this is not something that we've learned from books and someone told us. This is something we experienced in our personal life, and just as it changed our lives, that's why we want to transfer this information. And we've both been in events, this kind of events, with this kind of proximity to the mentors. We've both paid thousands of dollars for this in our careers. I've been in one event paying $10,000 or $12,000 for one event, and I swear to you, it didn't have half of the information or the depth or the quality of what you're gonna get from this. And this is our mission, and we want to get as many people as possible really understanding what changed our lives, because we know that's the real path to prosperity, to help others achieve the same.
All right, I got $1 million truth bomb. So if you hung around this long and you're still here, here's your $1 million truth bomb. Your network will grow only as fast as you do. And I really mean, if you really get that statement and you understand it, it's worth $1 million bucks or €1 million or many more. Your network will only grow as fast as you do. I think of two things that transform my career and thus my life that I kind of would love to wrap up with these and see if you have any other final thoughts after. But I remember being a couple of months in the business and negative, and I don't have money to go to events, and I don't want to buy a ticket, and don't try to sell. I just need to make money. So my sponsor is like, I'm picking you up and I'm taking you to the event. I'm bringing you with me, okay? So I'll make it easy for you. And we can talk in the car on the way. That's how he sold it to me. So I'm in the car and the radio's playing and this guy is droning on and droning on and droning on. And I'm like, what channel are you listening to? What music where's the music? He says, oh, there's no music. That's his self-development. It was, at that time, a cassette tape. Some of you are going to have to Google what that is. So it's a cassette tape. It's Dr. Wayne Dyer. I say, doctor? He said, what does he sing? What does he play? He's, no. It's not music. It's self-development. I was so ignorant, I didn't even know what self-development was. I didn't even know that was a category in the universe. I'd never heard those two words linked together, one after another in the same sentence. And so that was a huge breakthrough for me. And then the other one came, I was probably 2 or 3 years in the business, maybe even 4. And I just really wanted it so bad. So I was willing to do anything. I would just because again, I'm coming from, for those who don't know my story, as a minimum wage dishwasher in a pancake house and worked in fast food restaurants. And then even as a restaurant manager, I was just working 90 hours a week and greasy, sweaty, making less money than my waitresses and waiters make. So I'm doing this on the side and I'm desperate to live a lifestyle like those leaders. And so I volunteered to help out at a leadership council thing. And I was getting, organized the room and picking up people at the airport and bringing in coffee and snacks and things like that. And I, just trying to glean what I could from these people who had what I wanted. And the thing that got me was they were talking about books and self-development books. And I had somehow made the jump to knowing there was self-development after that car ride with Dr. Dyer. But I still didn't make the connection of the books and how integral that was. And they were talking about Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, The Richest Man in Babylon, those kind of books. And they spoke about them with reverence. Not like they were holy books, right? That's a different kind of spiritual thing, but reverence, like gilded, like just to hold it in their hand was such an experience, and to be able to have those words come through their eyes, into their mind, into their soul. And that was really my saving grace as a kid, as I loved to read. I was always a voracious reader, but I was reading mysteries and thrillers and novels, and I didn't know that those other kind of books existed. And once I discovered those, that was the real impetus for the breakthrough in my life, because those books is where I really learned to work on me. I learned how to grow me, and that's what grew my business. So that kind of, to me, those were kind of seminal moments in my career that have transformed my life. Anything come to mind for you that jumps out, or what's your thoughts on anything else?
Just a final fun fact. Because what we do, just as you, I've got the opportunity to talk to many huge leaders, many people who are number one in their company worldwide. And I started to ask them when they really decided to do this big and when their growth really started. Because not all of us have success from the beginning. Some of us had the right start, and the first time they did network marketing, it was a huge success. But it's not normal. Usually you have some falls. Usually you start slow because you don't know how to do it. And there's some point in your career where you really get it, where you say, now I understand it. In Spanish, we say that that's the moment when you sound like a chilito en el sartén, like chile, the hot chili,
The spice.
spice, yeah, on a pan, on a fry pan,
Uh-huh.
the sound that it makes, like
The sizzle.
when you sizzle, when you say, now I need to do this big time. That's the moment when the breakthrough happens. So I started asking them when they've got that breakthrough. And all of them, 100% were one of two scenarios. Scenario number one, they had a huge tragedy in their lives. Someone died and they didn't have money anymore, or they lost everything because they didn't pay taxes, or something gross happened to their lives and they had no other option than decide go big. That's scenario number one. And I really don't want that for anyone. Scenario number two, they went to an amazing personal development event. They were on one of those places where you really understand how big you should be and how it's all on you and how you need to take responsibility for that. And you are on the right network of people where you have all these testimonies of people that were on the same place as you are, and they only decided to do it different. And that's the only other way I've found for people to go through this breakthrough. So the third option is staying where you are. But if you don't want to stay where you are and you want to move on, those are the other options. So I really hope people decide to come and experience firsthand all the potential they have.
Amen. Amen. All right, guys, new show comes out every Tuesday, Duplication Nation MLM podcast. Make sure to like, share, comment, and más importante, subscribe. I have a show coming up next Tuesday. I've already recorded it. It's just me sitting in front of a microphone, but I'm sharing something about the business. I bet you've never seen or heard this training anywhere else in the world, and you'll never hear it in that way again that I delivered it, because it's just a little unique aspect of the business that I think is fascinating, and most people don't know about it. So that's coming up next week. So every week a new show. Jaime's doing a new show every week in Spanish. So duplicationnation.com, and you can find all the goodies there. So thanks for watching, Mr. Lokier, as usual. Thank you for your kind and generous participation. Everybody else, love you. Talk to you soon. Peace.